Hi, I'm Coach Charles Braun with Fit Health USA here in Herndon, Virginia. This week we had a few topics come through, and the first one I want to discuss is how do I avoid overeating at summer cookouts? Okay, so we're in the middle of July. It's definitely getting hot out there. There's going to be lots of invites to local cookouts this summer, and folks want to relax a bit more during the summer as well. I'm letting my beard grow out a little bit right now. I'm feeling pretty scruffy. Several of my clients have let their beards grow out, and this weekend, with July 4th coming up, there will be lots and lots of cookouts going on. So how do you avoid overeating at the cookout? The first thing I would recommend is, if you're going to have a cookout over the weekend, make that day your cheat day. And that avoids a whole lot of stress associated with going to a cookout or even a series of cookouts. My clients tell me all the time that on a particularly popular day they might get invited to 2 or even 3 cookouts over the course of a weekend, and they'll go from one to the next. So if you make it your cheat day, you take all that stress away, but you still want to eat somewhat healthy, and you don't want to be walking out of that cookout in a wheelbarrow. The best way to prepare for the cookout is to eat super healthy up until the time of the cookout. And so let's say the cookout starts at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's going to go to 7, maybe 8 o'clock that night. And there's several activities going on, and there will be food probably available the entire time. You know there's going to be a bunch of desserts available. You know there'll be fresh hot food coming off the grill throughout the day, and you know there'll be lots of chips and dips and these types of things. So start out with maybe a later breakfast and have something hearty like eggs and like maybe 3 eggs and then a whole big pile of vegetables. One of my favorites is to make an omelet out of Trader Joe's frozen peppers and onions. They are fire grilled, I believe is what they're called, and you throw them in there with the 3 eggs, and then maybe add an ounce or 2 of chicken to that, and that's a really big hearty meal that's going to keep me full for hours and hours. So now you show up at the event, it's about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the first thing somebody does is offer you a beer or a glass of wine or a sugary mixed drink. And so my guidelines around the drinking would be like this: stay away from all the sugary drinks. They're just going to be bad news. You drink 1 or 2 sugary drinks, and then you start eating. The first thing you're going to do is dive into the chips and dip, and you will have consumed maybe an entire day's worth of food value over the course of that first hour, and not really have eaten anything substantial, nothing that's going to keep you nice and full. So I recommend starting out with a glass of ice cold water, maybe even drink 2 of those. And when somebody says, oh come on, let's have this beer, and you say, well, I gotta hydrate first. And it's a good idea to hydrate because you're going to be outside, it's hot out there, you're going to be sweating, and you're going to need that water to begin with. And if you start drinking, you will get dehydrated because you won't think about drinking enough water to keep up with the humidity and the heat. So start out drinking a couple glasses of water, don't touch any of the chip or dip to get started with, and wait until the hot meat is coming off the grill. Maybe get yourself a chicken thigh or half of a steak, something like that, and begin your meal that way. Maybe 30 minutes after that, if you want to start eating some of the chips and dips and maybe even some of the breads or other things that look really good, some of the desserts, if you're not really hungry, you won't end up eating a whole lot of that. If you're there with somebody, your wife, your husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, your children, maybe you get a dessert and split it with 2 or 3 or 4 people. That can be a really effective strategy. So that allows you to try several things without necessarily eating all of it. So you wouldn't have to eat an entire piece of apple cake and an entire piece of cherry cake and 4 pieces of really yummy cheddar coated bread, and then try and eat, like a 16-ounce steak and 5 ribs and everything else. Okay, so let's reorient that so that you're eating the heavy meats and chickens and these types of things first. Wait about 30 minutes, and then start to indulge in some of the things that you really want to eat that you haven't eaten in a while. It's also best to not start drinking until after you have eaten your main meal that you're going to eat while you're there. If you start drinking ahead of time, this will mess up with your digestion, and you won't necessarily get the signals that you're full. And so you may end up having 2 or 3 times the amount of drinks that you would normally have if you eat your meal first. Okay, so in a nutshell, start out the day with a good hearty late breakfast, one that maybe you eat around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning and is going to hold you to about 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then when you get to the event, the big cookout, start by drinking a couple glasses of water, and then wait to eat your first food until you're eating something hot off the grill, being like the chicken or the beef or the pork. And then start indulging in some of the chips and dips and desserts. All right, if you have any further questions or comments, please leave them below. Thank you. Have a good day.